Okay. Okay, yes, I can do that now. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yes. So we've covered classes based on the syntax of SQL. We've covered class on the where clause. Then we covered our aggregate function. Last week we covered class on join and union and co. So today we'll be going into subquery. So as much as possible, we need to understand all this for us to be fully able to understand subquery. So we need to, okay, maybe the last class you can still understand subquery without fully understanding the join and union, but you need to understand your aggregate function very well. We need to understand where our clause, our order by, our where clause, the select, how it works. So I don't know if I should explore to ask. Okay. Maybe let me just go straight into just doing the form of revision for us. So we are still using the platform we were using last week. So that's the same platform we are using. We continue to use. I'm dropping it in the chat for if we don't have it for those that may not have it. And the data set is still the same one that we've been using, the one we use from the GitHub repository. I'm dropping that also in the chat. So that's actually this one. So when you open the SQL Online, by default, the database here, this particular database might not have these other tables, probably having only demo. When you click on connect, it has only demo. And then when you click on that, you open, if you can open a new work area by clicking on this and paste the table. So you can copy the script from this page by just copying, click on this copy icon, copy raw file, come here, paste it, and run it once. So if I run this, I don't want to run it again because I already run it and I have all these tables. Okay, I can actually run it. It's going to drop the table and recreate it. It drops the table, create it, and then insert it into it. So let me just do that. Run, make the run up here. And then when you do that, you should be able to see other tables like the category, the customer, and co. So doing that, we can close this and let's just finish it. Okay. So back to our revision. Before I start, does anybody have a question from the previous class? Do you have any question that probably you want us to address? Okay. So I'm going to take that as we don't have any questions, so I can go ahead.
No question, no
I,
question, no question.
Okay,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I do have a question, but I wrote it down somewhere when I was studying. So I'm trying to look for it. I'll bring it out. Maybe
Okay.
during the class.
Okay, all right. That's fine. Okay. Just give me, I want to drop the reminder to the group chat for you to join. Okay, all right. Okay, Angela, you also have a question. Can you go ahead?
No question, no question for now.
Okay, all right, thank you. So if we remember very well, we talked about our SQL query starts with a select. A typical SQL query starts with select. And then we have follows by the column name. I just wanted to do a quick recap from the first class. The column names, which could be something like star for all of them. Names. And then it's followed by, after the column name, we have the from that have the from that now have our data source. In most of the cases that we've been doing, our data source is a table, the table name. So today we will probably see a scenario where it might not necessarily be a table name in the class, in today's class. And then we have our where clause, where we can have the conditions. I believe we are all familiar with this. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. So then we talked about the different aggregate functions that we have. I think the most popular one is the counts, where you can do different type of counts. Then we have sum. You can sum a numerical number, a numerical values, columns that have numerical values together. We have the average. We also average of numerical values. We can do them. We have minimum, maximum. I think these are the common ones. These are the common ones used. We have standard deviation, but we are not going to that. Okay. So we have this particular aggregate function that we look by, and then with the use of the group aggregate function, we have a particular a section in SQL that is grouped by. We need to remember it's actually group and then space by. The by, both of them, they are together. If they are used together, is group by, space by. And when do we use this? We use it for other values, other columns we're probably selecting that is not in our aggregate function. Right? So say, for example, we are trying to do select. Let me do this. Let's start from music products. Let me this was lawyer costing. So for example, you have different customer and I want to say, okay, I want to know by each country counts how many customer we have. So counts the countries. So because I'm counting by country, so it's supposed to show me the country and the count. I need to have this country in my group by clause. I need to have that in the group by section of the code. So that's why you have to put your group by. This is just a quick revision because we are going to be using this. We are going to need this the knowledge of this in our class today. So so ordinarily, assuming I'm just doing a quick count from this table, I don't need a group by. Assuming I'm not. So group by is more like trying to box the data together. Okay, group data into different boxes, then I can. So now that I've grouped it into countries, I can now count. Okay, in this first box of country Argentina, how many do you have there? In this other box of Australia, how many do you have there? In this other box, how many do you have there? So that's what the group by actually do of, like, you categorize data, you put them in like a cluster, and then we can now do the aggregate function on it. So I may even have multiple things under my group by. Maybe I have a country, customer, and then something. So maybe country, state. I'm doing all those group by country, comma state, or something like that. Then I'll have cluster our data into, okay, country and state for each of the country. In Argentina and this particular state, maybe Nigeria and Lagos. Then that's the cluster. So it goes back and go and counts. Okay, Nigeria, Lagos, how many do we have there? And what is the count? What is the count? What is the count? And that's actually more of like how the group by works. It's just more of a way telling, okay, this is the way you should cluster our data. So even though you probably don't need this, so I've always been telling you, okay, you might need this. So let me just, the reason why I'm saying the cluster, let me just use that. Let me just show us something that might be straightforward. So let me just show us something. So I say, okay, we don't actually need a group by in this particular case when I have the counts. But there might be a reason why I want to have so I want to cluster it. I just want to even though I don't think it's a practical reason anyway. I don't think I've ever used it. But to just let us know that it's a form of clustering. Even though for the when I have it, when I have this, I have to create a group by. But if I put a group by in this case, it's still going to do the cluster, even though I'm not returning the country. So let's do. You see, it still returned like 4, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2. So it has still grown by country, just I'm not returning the country. So it might not really make sense. But what group by works on, what I'm just trying to show is how that group by works is like it's cluster data. I put them in the form of cluster. So the count is not doing the count within those clusters and so on. Okay. All right. So we have our group by, then we have our where and go and go. Okay. Thank you very much. So I think we have our group by account, we have maximum, we have minimum, we have sum, we have average. So I think with that, we can go on to today's class. Or do you have any question before we proceed to today's class? Okay.
So that's great. No question.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead to discuss. So today is the 5th class. Thank you everyone that have been joining so far. It's been awesome. I believe we are getting 1 or 2 things from the class, something practical. As much as possible, I want us to also practice it. I want us to practice what we've been covering. I want us to gain as much as it's what the benefit of classes like this actually in the practice. When you practice, you see different scenarios. You see people request for different things, and then you have to apply this knowledge into it. So, but for today's class, we're going into subqueries. So the agenda is not a lot, it's straightforward. It's just 4 things we are looking at, which is what's even subquery as a whole, what is it? Then different type of subquery we have, different use cases of subquery where we different use it. And then there's literally comparing to type of subquery. This is actually based on the way it's executed, the correlated and not correlated subqueries. That actually depends on how the database interpret our subquery. So because that might actually affect the performance. So that is useful when we are thinking of performance, when you're trying to optimize our query, we can know okay how it performs based on what we know. So let's get straight into it. So today I say, what is subquery? So subquery is just a query, just as the name is. It's a query within a query. So we know practically from our previous classes that we say, okay, a query starts with select. Then you have the table name in our from keyword. Then you have the where. But it's possible that within that query, that with the simple one that we already have the select that's supposed to follow with column name, we can actually have another query within it. We can embed another query within it for some reasons. So an example of the reasons is if you want to probably filter out the large number based on an aggregate function. So that's why I actually go into an aggregate function. So we'll be probably using the aggregate function a lot more today. We see more use case for it today, a lot more cases for it today. So for example, if I say, okay, can you give me the details of the most expensive products per supplier? So we have the product table, right? So I just say, okay, give me the details of the most expensive products per supplier. So we have our product table, we have the price and the code. So how will you go about that? Now you are not selecting all the products, and you are not selecting only the highest. You are selecting for each of the supplier what's the highest. You have to select what's the highest price, which is going to be an aggregate function to get to know the highest price of the product per supplier. That means you're going to be using the maximum cost, right? The maximum aggregate function. Yes, so that's like an example of where you have to do a form of subquery. We'll be doing that more in the practical in the answer section. I just want to first of all take us through this is more of like the theoretical knowledge, and theory is actually important. You need to probably know some of these things, especially if you probably be having some form of interview section. During the interview section, they'll probably be asking you simple questions, questions like this. Oh, what's subquery? So you need to be able to even explain it to the interviewer. So I mentioned one of the use cases, one of the basic use why you have to use a subquery is things like getting featuring. That's in our where clause a data, the set of data based on an aggregate function, which is an example of trying to get the details. So I'm trying to get the product, the products, the most expensive product per supplier from our products, details of the most expensive products. That's actually an example of it. Then we have like trying to get a dynamic value generation for computation and filtering also. So there might be a reason why you probably want to do some form of calculation before you filter out a report or part of your columns that you're actually returning back. You want to do some computation based on it. So those computation, it has to be a subquery. Most time, complex one has to be a subquery. And then part of it is to retrieve data for specific columns. So there might be the reason why I'm selecting, we are selecting the columns name, right? Part of what we got last week was you can actually join. So if I join another table, I can select information from that other table. But for some reason, you might not necessarily want to join to another table. You just want to go into that table and probably you still want to get the data, but you don't want to do a join. So subquery is also very much useful in that sense. And then I have some, okay, yeah, so there are majorly three types of subquery. We need to know this. So even though you might know subquery, you might know the practical knowledge without knowing all this, but they are, because as much as possible, so you need to know the theoretical aspect and be able to explain what you do. So I would like us to actually know that there are actually three major types. We have the single row subquery. That one actually return only one row of item. So from our first class, we mentioned that we have columns, which could be like, so customer name is a column, customer address is a column, so probably my customer table, those are columns. But then we have a row. Role is, if I pick customer Yomi, so if Yomi is a customer, Yomi is obviously going to have be one customer, which is going to be a role, is a set of, it's just a role in database. So Yomi is going to have customer number, customer this, customer, but he's just going to be one in customer table. You won't expect, okay, customer that is Yomi that have this particular, that represents this particular Yomi should be one record in a normal database. So if I'm trying to write a subquery in this case it returns a single row or columns. Oh, sorry. So it's going to return one row. It's not going to return multiple rows. So if I'm selecting from that type of query and I'm trying to select from, if I'm selecting products based on supplier, so I'm just selecting all the products for a supplier. That one is not one row. That's a multiple row. But if I'm selecting from the supplier, I'm saying, okay, select one particular supplier from the supplier table. That's one row. That's a single row subquery. So we have the single row subquery, which returns just one row or one data usually, and we have the multi-row subquery. So this part of the code, this part of from, I don't know if you can see my cursor, this is actually where we have the subquery. So as I mentioned earlier, our typical query starts with the select, we have the from, and we have the where clause. But within this particular query, we can see that we already have another query, which is this other part, which select maximum salary from salaries. This is not data from our data sets. This is sample data. This is sample scripts. So this other part now, it doesn't run in its way. It's part of this major query. That's the subquery. This part is the subquery. So basically what this query is going to do is going to, so it's like trying to select the employee, right? It's trying to select the employee with the highest salary. So how does it get the highest salary? Because for you to select, so I'm saying, okay, give me the employee that is collecting the highest salary. For you to be able to give me the employee that's collecting the highest salary, you need to first of all know what's even the highest salary. I believe you agree with me. And that's the reason why it's first of all
Yes.
have to have a subquery to say, okay, this subquery should go and give me what is the highest salary. So that's what this is doing. So for him to be able to get this, I have to execute the query, our database will first of all execute this part, say, okay, what's the salary? Then now I cannot go into it cannot take that result that's gotten from the subquery and take it to the main query and say, okay, now what's the which of the employee have this particular salary? And everything. It might be one, it might be more than one salary, it might be more than one employee, but at least you know that these are the employees that are collecting the highest salary in the organization. So that's what this one looks. That's majorly what this type of query represents, that, and that's how subquery works in a way. So the first one is the single row. The second one is multi-row. In this case, why is multi-row is this? So notice this. Let me still explain this query. It's just a select. It's trying to select this query as a whole. What we're trying to do here is give me employees that are in New York. What's trying to do that their department is in New York, but because from the employee table you don't have the where the department is, so it needs to first of all get from the employee table. What I have here, what you have here is probably the department ID. You don't have the department location in the employee table, which is understandable. So you first of all have to go and get all the employees, all the departments that are in New York. Did we cover in our where clause? I'm not sure we covered in. Did we? Do anybody remember?
What's the question?
Did we cover in what in represents in when we are doing the filtering the content?
Okay. No, we were unable
Okay.
to itemize that. Yeah.
Okay. So I will probably just explain that. So this one, okay. So back to the subquery. The subquery here is going to do okay. So this particular first subquery is going to return all the departments that are in New York. So they might be 10, it might be one, it might be multiple. In fact, it might be zero, it could be zero, it could be one, it could be 1,000. So it could be different list of departments that are actually in that New York. So the in clause in is when we are doing when you have a scenario where you can have more than one item. So probably I'm trying to say, okay, department in this list of departments. So that in is just when I'm trying to compare it to a list of objects, a list of items, a list of values. That's when we actually use in. Typically, we use equals to when we are comparing something to just one item. So if I'm comparing salary to higher salary, so it's just one against one. I'm comparing one.
So
But in this,
just like you are fetching more than one data from a data set. So like you are
so
picking maybe like a batch ID now from a transaction. So you have more than on that table, you have more than but on one batch ID, maybe you have four. So I'm picking putting all the batch ID in a quote, right?
yes, so if for example from that table I want to just pick batch, I want to pick transaction that have the batch ID that I don't want to pick. I'm not picking only one particular batch ID. I want to pick like four of batch ID. So I have to put it in then specify all of the batch ID one by one. So let me just go to our Kenya and just show us it before come back. So for example, let's say this is how in works. Let me do this. So if I want to say I want to say, okay, I want to get where country. So I want to get list of customer that are in Argentina, Brazil, and Canada. So I'm not trying to look for customer that are just in Argentina. So the typical, okay, so let me start with this. The typical where clause we are used to is just select equals to like this. So which is going to probably select customer that are in Argentina. But for some cases, I'm not trying to select only one country. I'm trying to select multiple countries. I'm trying to select from Argentina, customers that are in Argentina, customers that are in Brazil, and customers that are in Canada together, all of them together at once. So if I'm trying to do that, so for this one, it's going to be equals to, right? Equals to, so it selects three customer for me, only Argentina. But if I want to select from multiple countries, I want to select customer that are in Argentina or in Brazil or in Canada. So you use a in statement like this in. You say, okay, in, then we have it, we put that list in a bracket, in a normal bracket like this. So with this, it's going to select customer that are in Argentina. So if you look at the countries of the consorts. Okay. So this list now, okay, yes, we can see we have customers that are actually in Canada, we have customers that are in Argentina, we have customers in Brazil, and those are the lists that. So that's how in works is it compares this value, the value for each of the row, to does it exist in this list? That's how in works. Do you get it?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
perfect.
it's clear.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. So in this case, when we are doing the other part, so the single query, single row, we can probably use equals to because it's just going to be one value. But when we have the multi rows, so in this case, if I say select all the department that are in location New York, so I'm going to get multiple, which is going to be a list. So this is as good as me listing out the IDs of the department one by one. So because the first subquery, this particular subquery we have here, execute and return a particular set of data, which is like the list we have. Like in this case, I listed out Argentina separately, Brazil, Canada. So so it's going to list out all the department ID, and then the instrument saying, okay, give me the employees that are in those departments. So that's like an example of the multi-row subquery. Then we have multi-column subquery. This particular one is not supported by all database. It's supported by some of the database, but not all. So how I can't remember. I know Oracle supports it. I don't think I'm not sure if Microsoft SQL supports it, but I know I'm sure of Oracle that supports this particular multi-column query. And what it does is what this one works on is going to be comparing the ID and the salary to this ID and salary. So if we remember, if we actually run this particular query, this is similar to the query we ran at first when we're trying to get country and the count of the customer and the count of the people that are in that country. So this one is going to now, this one in this case, they're trying to get employee and the maximum salary. Okay, data set is not data. So for example, if I'm trying to get, I mentioned earlier that probably I say, okay, give me list of suppliers with give me the details of the product that have the highest details per product that have details of the most expensive product for each supplier. So for that, the easy way to just do it is, okay, I'm trying to get the product, the supplier ID and the price of the product. So with that, I know for this supplier, this is the price of the most expensive item. For this supplier, this is the price of the most expensive item. So with that, I cannot do a comparison from the product table and say, okay, from the product table, what products, so this product ID and this price is in this. So it's going to be comparing each of these to each of them. Let's just see. I'm not very sure if this is supported in this browser. Sorry, in case it's not supported, I'm not very sure. Just want to. Oh, okay. I okay. I just want to see if it's actually supported. So we have supplier ID, parts. So this subquery, because it's similar to, I'm trying to get by, so I need to group by the supplier ID. Okay. It's not supported in this particular browser, so it's not supported there. Okay, let me see. Sorry. I don't want to say Aeon. So we are using SQL, Microsoft SQL. Oh, yeah, Microsoft SQL doesn't support this part of the checks, but Oracle supports it. Some browsers support it. I just want to see if SQL. Okay. Okay, so my SQL actually supports it, but we are using. So I just want to show us this also, so at least we know, even if you don't use it every time. I'm also going to show us how to actually get the same result we're trying to get. For that example of getting the highest without using this particular approach, even though it's going to be a longer script. But for what I was trying to do earlier, what we're trying to do here is to say, okay, give me the product, the highest product by each supplier, right? Give me the highest
Yes.
product, the most expensive product, no, the most expensive product by each supplier. So with that, this first subquery, what you do, so let's run this. The first subquery just do something, okay, for each supplier one, the most expensive product is 19. For supplier two, most expensive product is this. So this other one now is now going to be doing, okay, it's comparing two things because it has two things, two values. So I'm doing two values. So it actually can be more than two. It could be more than two, but the number of values I have here must be the number of values I have here. Because what's comparing to is comparing the first one with the first one, the second one with the second one. So if I have another one, it's comparing the third one with the third one. But it's not supported in Microsoft SQL. But we have it in Oracle, we have it in MySQL. We can use this in both cases in 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 MySQL and in Oracle. So I feel like we should know it, even if what you're using is Microsoft SQL and you don't have it. But still, that doesn't change us from knowing that something like this actually exists. So and then so what I mean, so now we do this. So it compares it, and then now that is returning back the products. So it's giving us the product. If you look at the supplier, we can see that okay, now I have the supplier one. The product, the maximum price is 19. So now it's giving me the product that the supplier one is selling for that price. So I know the supplier one, his product is most expensive product is Chang.
Chang.
Yes. So supplier two is most expensive product is this, supplier three. So that's just some of the things that we can use. Okay, so that's more of like the type of subquery that we have. So the subquery that we have the, so remember, we have the single row, we have the multi-row, and then we have the multi-column. Multi-column is the case where we actually can select more than one column and compare it with it. So these first two, the single row and multi-row, is available in almost every database that I know of. Is available. The third one, this third comparison is not available in all. It's only available. Okay, this third comparison, the comparison is not really the subquery. You can still have the subquery and use it for something else. You can okay. So maybe I should have said that separately. So the subquery is actually what we are looking at, which is in the subquery, we are having more than one items. So now this subquery could have been used for different things. So this first one that we use this single row, we are using it in this case for the where clause to filter out item. I'm going to show us different ways that we can actually use subquery also. It's not only for filtering out item to say, okay, give me department that are in this list of department. That's a use case, but there are other use cases for subquery. So this one also, the multiple column also, there are other use cases, but this particular use case of using it in the where clause is only available on some of the database, not available on all. There will be some that I will take us to. I will show us an example of where it's available in what you can still use it for. You can so the multiple column subquery is actually available in others. Just that using it as the where clause for our filtering is not available in Microsoft SQL. Okay. So just I mentioned now that we have there are different use cases. So we are still going to our online platform and going to get a lot of hands on. I just want us to understand the basics first. That's why I'm going to all this theory for now. So after this explanation, I think after this particular explanation, I'm going to yes, after this set of explanation, I'm going to go into the Microsoft and we're going to go get more hands on and get our hands dirty. So, but the use cases. So what we look at earlier is the types, right? We say, okay, we have the single row, multiple row, and then we have the multiple columns, right? So, but the use cases here is we can actually have it in our select statements. All the example we have in that other one, we are using it in the where clause. We're using it for filtering purpose. But apart from the where clause, the first one is in our select. So our column generally we say, okay, we in our after our select, we have our list of columns. But there might be a case where I want to get an additional column, a computation without doing a join or something. So I can have a subquery in my select statements. But there's a caveat to this. There's a caveat to doing this, and that is the query you are going to have in your subquery. Like we can recognize the subquery that we have on my screen, right? This is the subquery part, the average price. The caveat is this guy must return only one item. It must be a single row item. It can't return multiple. If return multiple, there will be a problem because now our query doesn't know which of the items should it display. So I've shown the supplier the ID, supplier name. I want to show I want to show average price, but your subquery is returning multiple things. It doesn't know what to show, so it's going to throw up an error. So it has to be one item that is returning. So in this case, they are getting average. So from what we know aggregate function like this is going to obviously return just one value. Especially since there's no group by, it's not being grouped by. So that's in one case of this. You have it in your select query. Although in some cases, I feel like there are other ways of going about things like this rather than using subquery in those cases. But we still need to know that we can actually do that. Okay, there are some cases where you need to do that. And then we have the other approach. I mentioned earlier when I was trying to show that our typical SQL starts with the select, and we have our from. Then we have the select from, which is select, then the column name, from, then the table name. But there might actually be a case where it might not be table name directly, and that's actually this particular case. So our from has to be either a table name or it's actually going to be what follows the from has to be a data source. So our data source, which means where the data is actually coming from, what's going to be using, what's manipulating on, what's doing things on, what's creating the column, the filtering, where is it applying all those things on. So it could be a table. So it's a table basically, which is a set of database object that actually stored our data, right? It could be that. But also it could be a subquery. A subquery in this case is a subquery also probably is speaking from a table. No, so now this table will probably done something on it. And then we are supplying it to this particular SQL query that, okay, this is not the table, this is that's what it should work on. So for example, this case, they're trying to get they're trying to get department with average salary that are above 50,000. So first of all, doing something to get the department and the average. So the department and the average salary, and then put in that information. So I already have information of department, average salary, department, average salary, the one above 30,000, the one below 50,000, everything. I have that. Then they are supplying it to another query. As okay, now take this data, take this subquery, which is going to represent the form data, and work on it. So on this sort of query, I'm now doing
select.
I'm now doing a select. So it's doing a select from this subquery. So in this subquery, actually, we have a column name with this name. So using that as a column, we have another column name with average salary. So that's the column. And then we have, so the average salary here, because these subqueries are behaving now as our table, as our data source. So now our data source here is having two columns, which is department ID and AVG salary. So now we are selecting that in our select, and where clause, we're using the AVG salary, average salary, now where clause. So that's the other use case. So it's actually three use cases. The first one is in our select, which is in our column list. The second one is in our from keyword, from clause, which is like using it as a data source. And the last one is featuring. We've actually seen this one a lot, so I don't think I need to dwell on this. Which is using it in our where clause, what we want to do. Yeah. So now let's So now let's get our hands dirty. Let's get onto the practical aspect of this. So I mentioned okay. So I mentioned earlier that our subquery, so our subquery is a query on its own, right? It's a query, but now it's a query within another query. So for example, so from our data source, I believe we all have, do we all have our data now? I want to assume that we all have data source. Okay. So, yes. So for example, this first one I'm going to be doing is actually more of like we are selecting. So if I say, okay, can you give me the list of these details of supplier and the average price of their products? Details of the supplier and the average price of their products. So we have different tables in our database, right? We have the supplier table. Let me select from it so you can see. Supplier table. So in our supplier table, which is supposed to be majorly a table that holds record about each supplier, a unique record for every supplier one by one, right? That's what it should be. So I want to now get for all these suppliers that we actually have. Can you give me the supplier ID, the name of the supplier, and the average price? So I want to even know what supplier is probably targeting premium, probably what they are doing is for premium or something like that. So how do you go about writing that type of scripts? Using subquery. There are other ways you can actually go about it, especially with what we covered last week about join. You can, okay, maybe we also do, I think but we also do an example where we use the subquery in a join. We use the subquery in the join, even though it's, so we see also another way we can actually do it. But in this case, I want to use it in my select. I'm not using it in my join. I'm using it as a data source. So how do you go about that? An example of it, so I'm going to write the query again. So I'm selecting, so typically if I'm writing a query like this, I'm selecting from, I want to know all the supplier, right? So all the supplier and the average price for the supplier. The supplier, I have a table for supplier, which is supplier, average price for the products, right? The supplier table. And then average price, what table do we have that? What table have average price of the product? So that should be the product table that have the price. So let me also do a select from, start from products. Okay, okay, so I know probably with that type of request that I've actually requested. So the request is the request in this case is get the I want to type it in the chat. Details of supplier and the average price of their products. So I'm trying to say in real life, this is more like the at least the elementary stage of where the type of request we're probably going to get. So you're a data analyst, people come to you and say, okay, hey, we have all these supplier. We think we have about I don't know. Let me check. We have a lot of supplier. I don't know about that. Okay, we have about 29 suppliers. I want to even know what's the average price. We have different things that they are doing for us. We have different products. So I want to even know it could be average price, it could be even the count of all the products the supplier have, but also I want to see the name and every information about the supplier. Just let me to put the average price as part of it in this table. So I don't have the average price of all their products in this in the first table, right? Which is supplier. I can only get the average price by going to get the average price from this other table, which is the product table. So the product table have price, so I can get average price, AVG, and then in bracket I have price. So ordinarily I could just sort of say, okay, let me just get it as supplier ID, supplier ID. So I have my group by so now I know I have, so this is the supplier, this is the product. So I have this information now. So how do I want to combine it? So that's where our using it in select comes in. So if I want to use it in my select query, so I can say, okay, now let me just do this. Okay. So now the information about the supplier that I want to return back, I want to return back the supplier ID from the supplier table now. So what I want to do is to bring in the information about the average price from this particular other table, from the product table, into the script I'm going to be generating from the supplier, from the table, into the information I'm going to be getting from the supplier table. So information I need from the supplier table, I want to return the supplier name, I want to return the supplier the report I'm going to be giving supplier ID, supplier name, and I want to put the average price. So how do you go about that? To go about that, I can use the subquery, but I need to be a single row subquery. So in this case, I want to select, I can do this now to say select average price, average in brackets, AVG, price from products, so from product table. But I need a where clause because if I don't put a where clause here, if I don't put a where clause, let's run without a where clause and see what will happen. If I don't put the where clause, it's just return the same thing. So it's doing the average of all the products, not for the particular supplier. So I don't need it to return for all the product. I need to just return for that supplier. So the average you should give me here should be for supplier one. So for me to be able to do that, I need to add a where clause in my subquery. So the where clause supplier ID equals to what? So equals to this supplier ID, this supplier ID is the supplier ID from the product table. So I want to say supplier ID equals supplier ID here, but because they are both, so it might be confusing. If it's not there, I might not need to do this. But there is something we call alias. I know we did alias in the first class that we talked about for columns. Then we say we can put then as, then put a name or something. We might not even put as, we might just put it directly. So you can also do the same thing for the table here. So I can put an alias and then I can say, I just like using a single letter A. So I can now say A, so I can say A dots supplier ID. So the A supplier ID now says, okay, this first one, so it's picking the first one from the products, and then the A supplier ID is coming from here. So actually, the reason why it's picking from here is not because it's the first one. So I could actually interchange it and it's going to work the same way. But since I didn't specify anyone, it's going to pick the closest one, which is from the product table. So, and then I have the A supplier ID. So if I do this now we are getting the average result, which is returning the average price. So let me give this guy also an alias, average price, so that there will be a name for the column. So now this is one scenario. So now for this one, I have the supplier ID, supplier name, and then the average price. I hope we are still following. We are not yet lost. Do you get it? Do I need to come again?
Yes. I can see from my hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one. So this one is a way of getting it from So this is a single. So this is covering two things. This is a single row subquery. Single row, and I'm using it in select. So that same task, let me put the task I'm trying to get up here. There are other ways of accomplishing the same task. So we will come back later to accomplish the same task by using join, by doing it as a join. So we'll come back and do that. But let's just do some other example before we. So I just want to notice that we are coming back here. To do the same task of getting. So like, I don't want to show that, okay, so most of the time when you're actually asked to do something, it might not necessarily be just one way to get it. You can get to the same place using multiple rows, using multiple road or something. Okay. So, but the next one we talked about is like using it as our in our table, as a data source. So for that example okay. So let me see. So the example we have in the book, the example I showed us in the clinic is actually using something like, okay, so if I could say, okay, I want to get some other information. So for example, I want to get so let's use our product table. Product table is one of the things we've been using a lot because it has a lot of data. Our other table also have data, but for you to do together, you need to join it. Okay. So in our product table, let's do, so if I want to get, the most useful use case that actually lectures is using join. If I join tables together and I'm able to use that, but I don't want to over complicate the example. I want us to get it first before we start going into more complicated example. So let's just do a simple one also like this. So if I say, okay, we want to get the suppliers that have average average price greater than, I only want to get suppliers that, okay, probably their average price is above 40. There are two ways of doing it. We've actually covered one of the ways of doing it before, but in this case, we want to use it as we want to do it by using our subquery as data source. So, and how do we do that? What we do is basically get the supplier ID, get the average price. Then we can now later on come back and say, okay, from this list of supplier and average price, which one have an average price greater than 40? So that's a way of going about it, which is now I do supplier ID, comma, AVG price. So for this case, because I want to use this outside, I need to give it an alias. So the price AVG underscore price. So I'm giving the column name, I'm giving it a name. So it works as the column name when I'm doing this. So this is this, then we have to have our group by. So, okay. Supplier ID with average price greater than greater than 40. Yes, so that's what we're trying to do here. So now I have this initial subquery. So I have this one that I have this record, which is just showing me the supplier ID from this query. This is a query. At this point, it's not yet a subquery. So this query gives me the supplier ID and the average price. So I can use this as a subquery, another query now. So I can just do select. I can do a select star from it actually. Same way we do from this. So in this case, because it's a full subquery, first rule, you need to put it in the brackets so that your query knows that, okay, it knows where to start from. So in fact, the same thing in all of them. Every case when we are using a subquery, we have to put them in the form of like a bracket. So that we don't confuse the system. It knows that, okay, this is a bracket. So let me treat what's within the brackets. Most of the time when you put things in bracket, even in our where clause, we talked about precedence, that when you put it in bracket, it does what's in the bracket first before it looks at the one outside. But in this case, we put it in brackets, and then you have to give it an alias because it's not a table, so it doesn't really have a name. So we need to give it an alias. In this case, after the bracket, you give it an alias. So I just use you might give it a more meaningful alias anyway. So and then we can now have our where average price greater than 40. So that's what it is. Does anyone know another way we could have achieved this without using subquery?
Select.
Select, but within the select, yes. So, but if I do a select, normally this one is a select, and it return everything without. So it return everything, which includes people that are the products, the suppliers that have average price that is below 40. Or when you see select, what do you?
Yeah, I think I just saw it from your last query now. So let's start from supplier ID where.
No, what we did here in this subquery, what we did in this query is to say, okay, the request. Let me say the request that came from the from the user or from our customer, from the people that want to give report to is, oh, they want to say, okay, from database, please can you select the list of suppliers that have an average price that is above. I just want to know the supplier we have that their product are expensive. So give me suppliers that have average price that is above $40 or naira or something. So there are different ways to go about it. So what we've looked at
So
now.
what if we use
Yeah,
select star from
yes.
supplier ID where uh average price greater or equal to 40. Greater than 40. Will it not?
No, but you know, in our, you said, let's start from supplier. What do you say?
Yeah. Select star from the table, which is supplier ID.
Hold
I
on.
mean, from customer table, yeah. Select star from customer table.
So our customer table, if I just let's start from that, I have information about the customer. It doesn't show anything about supplier or price.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Link supply ID and price are in different tables.
No, we could get supplier ID and price from the product table. You
Okay,
can get
from
it.
product table then. Okay, select star from product table.
So we have the supplier here and we have the price here.
Okay.
So I'm just saying there's a way to also go about. So let me put it more
Okay.
clear. There's a way of filtering. So you know the reason why we are doing this other one, where we're using that subquery here, is because we want to filter out the ones that are lesser than 40. We want to only filter, we want to only get the ones that are above 40. There's another way to do that filtering without using subquery. You remember? So from this query now, there's another way to filter this. Should I mention? Should I say?
Yes, yes. Well, because I'm thinking if we do a select star from product where average price greater than or equal to 40, we should be able to see
But
the average price.
You can't put an aggregate function in your where clause. So you have to put it in the having. So we have having
Oh,
statements
having,
that we can have. If you remember, we said, okay, we can
yes.
actually have an having, and within our having, we can put our average. We can put our aggregate function. So I can put this now. I say where average price greater than 40. This is actually going to return the same result as this. So within our having, I can put the aggregate function because the reason why we are doing this initially is, okay, I want to get this, so I don't want to put an aggregate function in the where clause. So now this guy has returned it as a normal column, so it's no longer an aggregate function when I'm working on it on the outer SQL. But within the subquery is an aggregate function, right? So I've gotten it, I've done the computation, it's no longer aggregate, and I can use it as in my where clause here. But you can actually do the same thing here. But this just by the way just shows that so we can still do the same thing with different approach. Yes. Do you get it? Any question?
Yes, I got it.
Okay. So I'm trying to see. So the third one is so let me comment this one. So in fact, this particular one is a multi-row because this thing is returning multiple row. As you know, I mentioned that we can actually have the multi-row in still. So this one, this example, we are using a multi-row, multi-column, sorry, no, multi-column because we're having one and one column from our query, the type of query, and we are using it in the from. So the third example I want us to do is is get the details of the most expensive products by supplier. Okay. So if you see this type of requests, what table do you think we should go to? We know the tables we have. We have categories table. So let me just do a select that. So we know the request, right? Let me paste in the chat so in case you didn't get it very well. So if you have a query like this to say, okay, a request like this, that okay, please can you give me the details of the most expensive products by each of the suppliers? So I want to get the most expensive products for each of the suppliers that we have. So and then they want the full details. So they want the product name, the product ID, and information and quote information like that. That's the details when they say they want the details, right? So what table will you even go for at first? Are you going to product table?
Product.
Are you going to supplier table? Okay, it's a product. Okay. Yes, so it's actually correct. You are correct. So we are going to the product table because information we are looking for is at least at first glance from this request is details of product. So details of product should be in product. So I should go to product. But I need so now the second thing, the most expensive. So I need to know, how do I know the most expensive product by each supplier? How do I know that? So for that, the easy way is also to get that is also from the product table anyway. To get that also, I need to get
Because
that
price is in the product.
So because the supplier ID is in the product table, the price is in the product table.
The price is on the product table. Yes.
Yes. So I probably need a query like the supplier ID, maximum price.
Price.
Let me say, let me just max price.
Okay.
So I should have a group by. Don't forget that group by supplier ID. No, supplier ID because that's the supplier that we have here. That's the ID we have here. So when we do that, I know supplier 1 is 10, is 19, supplier 2 is this, supplier D is this. So I think we actually did something like this earlier, right? But the option we want to use then was to do it as this particular query here.
Yeah, but we can also include the name of the product.
Yes, so we can include the name of the product because it's coming from the product table. So we want to include that. So, I mean, the subquery is with the initial subquery to get, so this one returns the details of the products. And then I'm trying to do but the thing is, in this particular database, here we are using MS SQL, that's Microsoft SQL. We can't do that. We can't do an statement of comparing multiple columns, Microsoft SQL. You can do it on database, but you can't do it in Microsoft SQL. So yeah, we have to. So now our challenge here is now to go about it without doing that. So now I have the in this case, for us to be able to achieve these reports, we are going to go a step further, which is we are going to have a subquery within another subquery. So I didn't mention that you can actually have subquery within subquery as much as possible. So in this case, for us to be able to get the details of the products, we need to get the IDs of, okay. We need to get the ID. We don't actually need to get the ID. Okay, sorry, we are not going into multiple level. To be able to do that, this is the point where we can. One option is the other one is the first option we looked at, but it's not available here. So this is part of the reason why we need to even know all the options that maybe not all, but some of the options that are available. So in this case, we are probably going to be doing a join. We are going to be joining a normal table, which is the product table, to a subquery. If you remember last week, we have some major type of join. We have
Inner join.
Inner join. We have different outer join. So under outer join, we have left outer join. So I'm going to do
Left and right.
and right
Full and
outer
join.
join.
Full and self.
We have full join. We have self join, and then we have cross join. So majorly at the beginner stage, when you're still working on SQL, you're probably going to be using only 3 major type of join most of the time. Most of at the left outer join, right outer join. So let me move this guy. So majorly at the beginning, you'll probably be using these two. So we have full join. So probably in some days, I have to use full join, but very rare. It will be very rare. I use it, but I rarely use it. I don't use it that much. So in fact, even though you're using these 3, you most likely be using these 2 more often, because most of the time you just, because of the way human brain works, you want to put the most important table as the first one, then you're putting the less important table. So, and if you've done that already, that means the most important table will always be on the left, which will be the left table, and then the less important will be on the right. So you're most likely going to be using left join. So the difference between left join and right join is basically where you position your most important table, the information, the major table you are getting information from. And at least the way I think, and I think that's the way most people think, you put the most important one first before you start picking the one that are less important. So most times you are going to even be using these 2 majorly. So I believe you understand the difference. Inner join is going to only return what's common between the 2 join. And left join is going to be returning what's common, what is in the first column, in the first data source, table or data source, if it's a subquery, you can use data source, and is in the second query or data source. So in this particular case, I want to join this table to this information I have here. So because I know that every information that is in this first one is going to be in this second one, because we are not featuring anything else. So they are all in this one. So I can actually do a normal inner join. So if I do inner join, and when you are using subquery, I mentioned earlier, you need to always put it in the brackets. So, and then for easy, for most times, I think we can just be like, yes, give it an alias. In this case, I can actually do without giving an alias, but okay, no, I cannot. We have an issue if I don't give it an alias, because I have supplier here, I have supplier here. So in fact, I need to give this guy an alias also, because when I'm doing my join on I'm going to be joining on 2 things. I'm going to be joining on the supplier ID. Supplier ID, supplier ID in the first one is equal to supplier ID in the second one. And so I'm joining on 2 things. So you can actually join on more than one condition. So I'm joining on the supplier ID equals supplier ID in the first one, and also I'm joining on the price in the first one is now the maximum price in the second one. So I'm trying to say, okay, the price in the first one is actually, I want to get the maximum. Actually, I want to just say, okay, I'm trying to get the product that have the maximum highest price. So I'm joining on that. So with that, A dot price equals to B dot maximum price. Do you get that? Do you get what I'm doing? Are we lost? Is it clear? Is it confusing? Should I come back again?
Man, the whole lot, actually. The good thing is that the video remains, so you're gonna get back. There are a lot of
Yes,
it's
maybe once
what's it
somebody
called?
watch the video
Logicality.
again.
Yes. Okay. So okay, I'm trying to explain it again, but the problem if you don't really understand the join, but I think you can actually understand the join. I'm assuming that we understand the join.
The joint is actually understandable. It is
Yes.
understandable. Just
So
that it's
in this case, what I'm doing here is I'm using this subquery, which I think we understand what it is. So let me run it again so that we can see what the subquery is returning. Okay, I even have it already. The subquery is the supplier. The information about the subquery is just the supplier ID and the maximum price. So I'm saying, okay, this supplier, this is the highest price of the product. This supplier, this is the highest price of the product. This supplier, this is the highest price of the product. So now,
yes.
the information I need to now get is what products for this supplier have this
As
price?
the high chase, yeah. Think I don't know.
Now, I need to get what products for this supplier one have the price of 19. So now I know that's the most expensive product for supplier one. What products for supplier two have the price of 22? So that's the highest product from 22. So that's what I'm trying to get here, which is why I need to do a join between this table and this
So that we can
direct that.
compare. Yeah.
So now, because of that, I needed to join these two on two conditions. I need to join on the supplier ID and then also join on the price, because I only want to get the one with the highest price. So if I don't join with the price, it's not good. It's going to still return all the product for me. So I need to join on the price. Say, okay, now the price, who is the one that is priced at 19 for supplier one? So that's what's going on here. So that's why I'm having two joins. So, sorry, I don't know what I pressed. Okay. So that's where I'm having these two conditions in my join, in my join. So that's way. So if I have my from inner join, so it is inner join, I can actually write. I don't know if you mentioned last week, both inner join and just join, they're actually the same thing. They represent the same thing. So I can write it as just join. Of so in case we are reviewing people's script and we didn't specify inner join, they just put join. It actually means inner join. And also the outer join, I can write left join without the outer. So it also represents left join, left outer join, left join. It's the same thing. So and then when we do it like this, we need to put an on here is saying, okay, on what conditions should you join these two tables? What should you use to join them? So here I'm saying, okay, join it on the supplier ID and also join it on the price.
Clear now.
So that's where this is. So if I run this now, even I'm still doing is Leicester, so we can still do Leicester anyway. So this gives me, so Leicester is going to select everything from the first two tables. So probably that very probably don't need this last two columns as well. Let me see. Okay, let me just add another by here so that it's ordered by the supplier ID. If you remember, we have the order by that I can use to supply. So in this case, now it's putting different supply ID 29 as first one. I don't want it. I want to sort it the way with supply ID one, starting from supply ID one and so on. So there are three ways of ordering. If you remember, you can order by the column name. You can order by the alias, if it has an alias, and you can order by the index, the number. So in this case, I have 1, 2, 3. Seriously, I can't even remember if it starts from 1 base or 0 base. So I can say 3. So because it starts from 1, 2, 3. So I want to order by the third one. I'm wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. So it starts from 1. So I can do 1, 2, 3. But also I could have actually just used the column name. So there are 3 ways of just doing it. So in case later on and probably in real life, you might want to use the number in case someone later on just add one column so that the other by will not be missing. Now it's ordering the wrong column. So with that, just think like that. We now have our each of the products
The
by
highest.
the highest product. So I know for supplier one, I mentioned this Chan. For supplier two is Chef something, and so on and so on. So that's the most expensive product for each of the supplier. So the same thing you could have, okay, we might have decided, okay, we probably want to get the most expensive for each category, and so on. It could have been anything we are trying to do, but I'm just trying to show us how to go about some of these type of requests. So in this case, now we are doing a join, using that a join, and yes, we are using multiple. So it's also multi-column. Okay, multi-column. And it's still in our, so I'm still categorizing this as our from because our join, we are using it as a table, right? So I mentioned there are majorly three scenarios where we are trying to use it. You decide to use it in your select, so which is what we've done here. You can use it in your from statement, using it as a data source, which is what we've done in these two, in the first one and the second one. And then we can also use it in our where clause. So in our where clause. So we are still going to use the same table, the same information, the same thing. So in this case, the request is, okay. The request in this case is give me the cheapest products we have, not by supplier. So I just want to get the cheapest products in the organization, the cheapest product we are selling. Yeah, so the request you got from I don't know who sent request for so we say business. So probably the request business has request what the business has requested for is, can you give me a report of, not a report, this one is just one item. Can you give me the product, the cheapest product we have? So can you give me the cheapest product we have? And then they are not just asking for product ID, they need the full information. They need the product ID, the product name, the supplier, the category, and so on, units, and all this information. So that's what we are doing next, which is get the details of the cheapest products. So I want to just put this query in here, although it doesn't work in, I'll just put it there. It works in Oracle and my SQL. So I'm going to practice that. Okay, so this new request says, give me details of the cheapest products. So we are still going to pick this information from our product table, right? We know the product, that's where we have the information about the products. So now I want to get the cheapest product. So I can do different things of something like, if it was easier, I would have just said, let me just order by and pick the first one, but you can, but so that's probably one idea. I was saying, okay, but I probably just order and pick the first one, but how to go about that varies from database to database to pick the first item. So in like Microsoft, in like Oracle, in like MS SQL, you do something like, let me just this. I'm branching out of the like branching out of what I'm actually going back to. I'm coming back to this. I'll just say this just come to my mind. So let me just show us. So I'm trying to pick, if I want to pick this same request, I'm not doing it as subquery. I just want to show us something that you can do. So if I want to say, okay, let me just order by and then pick the. It's not even. I can still do it as subquery. I still do it as subquery. So I can just say, let me order by and pick the top one, the top item. So say in Microsoft SQL, we have an item, we have something called top one. So I can do top one star. So I think that's so let me take top one star from this guy. It's going to select the top one. So you're going to select the top one. So with this, I can actually write a subquery to say, to first of all say, okay, give a subquery to order by, so let's start from price. Then we say order by price ascending. So if it's ascending, by default, it's ascending. The order by is ascending. It's going to be from the smallest to the highest. So I can actually include descending if I want to get the highest to the lowest. So assuming, so I can do descending. So, but this one, if I say order by this, right? So I want to get the cheapest product. So this is one option. You just say, okay, order it. So this now I have this subquery now just give me the products order by the price. So the cheapest comes first, the comes first, and then I can do something like this to get. Okay, let me do something else. Oh, okay. So so sorry. If I'm using the order, but I don't need to. I can actually just type it. So I have to. If I'm doing this, I don't put it as a subquery. I just have to. If I'm using top one, so I just have to select it directly like this. So that by instead of showing everything, she just show me the first one, which is the one with 2.5. So, but you know, the price also you can actually. So this one is not really a subquery. So I can do a descending, which is okay. The most expensive come first. I'm saying price descending, so the most expensive come first, and then I pick the top one of this. But then this is not. This one is just by the way. The top one is what we use in Microsoft SQL, but in some database, you don't do it this way in Oracle. Top one is not in Oracle. It's only Microsoft SQL that does it this way. That's why I didn't cover
Yeah,
it.
that is actually what I want to ask because top one, when I'm using top one and you are using descent, so does it not actually mean the same thing? Selecting from the top.
No, I'm selecting from the top, but this guy will have ordered it first. So I need to do order because if it's not ordered, so let me say, let me just select top one without putting the order by. So now it's giving me the one that I intend. So you just pick one at random. But I don't want you to pick one at random. I want you to pick the cheapest or the most expensive. So if I put descending, which means the most expensive one will come first, so you should pick the top one. So you pick the most expensive. If I don't put the descending, or if I don't put this, so this is actually optional. If I don't, by default, the order by is by ascending order. So I can put it by, so if I put ascending now, or don't put anything, it's going to pick the cheapest because it ordered it by the price and then it picks the top one for me. You get that?
Yes, I understand.
So, but using subquery, so this is just a branch. So if you are using subquery, so we can actually get this thing in subquery because if we do it in MySQL, actually that code will not work, will not run in MySQL. So subquery is to get. So the subquery now is to get what is the price of the cheapest one, right? So I want to use subquery. So my subquery should even just give me. So I need to write a script that gets what's the cheapest price. Then I can now use that to say, okay, give me products with that have that price. Similar to what we've done here, even though this one is a more complex one. But what we're trying to do here is say, okay, I need to first of all get what's the cheapest price. Then, since I'm trying to get the cheapest products, so cheapest price with the minimum bracket price. I believe we agree with me, right? That this script will give us
Yes.
the lowest price we have. And in this case, because this lowest price, this guy is just a single row values. That's what it's returned. So I can now use that and use it to say, okay, where in the main query, where price equals to, since just one item, equals to this. So remember to put your brackets around this, and then we can run this, which will give us the lowest price. Any question?
Okay. Yeah. Hello. Hello,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So when we were talking about the top one, I was thinking the top one will only pick the highest maybe value, will return the highest value.
No, no,
Or
no.
is it different?
Oh, okay. The word top that we have there, this is just a syntax from different database to database. So this top here, so by default, I've never mentioned this top and connect to us. So this one in Microsoft SQL, this is actually specific to Microsoft SQL. It's just saying from the list of data, give me the top. So since I specify one, give me the top one value. So I can actually put top 100. So which just give me, so instead of you giving me all the record you have, give me the top one. So what we've done here is first of all to say, okay, sort it by this. So once it's sorted, so one is giving me, so without the top, so if I didn't put the top, let me remove the top and run this. So with this, we have all the records, but with the highest, then followed by the next highest, followed by the, so because I've sorted it by price. Do you understand? So
Yeah,
even if I
I
didn't put, the descending, then I've sorted it by the lowest. So it starts with the lowest one, then to the next one, to the next one. So the top one here is just saying, instead of you giving me this number of records, just give me only one. So if you look at this, so you can still try to look at this. We have the I-31, 32, and so. So if I pick this one, it's going to give me the first one, which is the 31. Yeah, 33, sorry. So I can actually, instead of doing top one, I can actually do top two. So this one is going to give me 33 and 24, the next one. So that's what the top actually does. It's just saying, okay, select the highest, select the, so it's not really querying data. It's just filtering what is showing you. So instead of showing me everything, just show me the first one. So that's what it actually does. So it's not, that one was just by the way, but today it's not really part of what we plan to cover today. Do you get us? Mikey? Right?
Okay. My own question, not really a question, Sha. I just want to see what will be the result from this your query that says get the details of the cheapest product. So from that query, if you take out select, the inner select
Yes.
and the outer bracket,
So
can you
if I
take that
take
out?
out,
No,
if I
as in
take this
just
out,
take out the inner no, not the whole query. Where price equal where price, just take out select.
oh, I should
Just
take out this
just
full
the
select.
select, not the whole statement. No, not the full. Just the select inside that cycle, inside that bracket. No, not
This,
all, not all. Leave the main price. So I want to like let your price, where price equal to main, then take out the outer bracket,
okay,
the
you
first
want, okay,
bracket.
okay. Let me do this. I get what you want
Okay.
now. I get what you're trying to say. You're saying if I do this, where price something like this.
Yeah.
The problem with this is number one, you can't have an aggregate function in your where clause, which will not work. And then number two is not going to necessarily know where is it going to get the minimum value, minimum clip from. So it's probably going to try and error, different errors. So it's not going to work because but this is not, there's no group by or something here. I'm just trying to select all. So it doesn't know
where to pick from.
where to get the minimum value from. So, but here I'm saying, okay, first of all, so the way it runs is first of all, run this guy. So the way it runs is first of all, run this guy and get 23. It gets 20,
Now filter it, yeah.
20, 2.5. Then it now runs it like, okay, now that I have 2.5, then check. So it now inserts the
Now,
put
now
25 there
check
like
product
this.
table. Yeah.
So it's not checking to a product table against this, something like this.
I get now.
That's the way. That's the way it works in the background under the hood. I'm trying to. How do I go with this? I'm trying to round up the class. I said we're going back to the join, but we've actually done it here. We've done the join here, so I don't think we need to go back to that particular one. Okay. Okay. Do you have any question before I just try to do a form of recap? Any question?
No question. For me, whatever the question is, just within me to go sit down and check what we done to get this result. So I guess
Okay.
it's gonna take me to sit down
Okay. I will actually advise us
and
all
digest.
to rewatch to still go through this. So this class is going to be uploaded. I would rather to actually watch the game because I know it's part of the complex one. So classes on join, the class on join, and this one I need us probably just take time to watch it so that we understand it fully. And it's part of the most confusing parts at the early stage in SQL. So let me just do a quick recap of what we've done today. So we talked about what subquery is, which is just a nested query, a query within another query. And part of what we use it for is to filter out results, to get an additional information that when we put it in the select column. We can use it for as a data source, probably a more complex data source. Probably you're trying to get a more complex information than just what we have in the table. And then the different type of queries we have the single row, which return only one value, like an aggregate function or something that you have there. You have the multi-rows, which returns different multiple rows, multiple IDs that you can use in different places, like a where clause and so on. And then we have the multi-column query. If, for example, we use an example of this when we are trying to join raw table to another table, to another data source. So that's the type. And then different places where we can have used it, use cases within our code is we probably use in almost all the cases. We use it in our select columns. We use it in our from as a data as making it to look like its own data source, and then we use it in our where clause for filtering. Okay, so I think that is all for today. Do you have any more question? I'm going to the video. This recording is going to actually be uploaded between today and tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to be sharing it as usual as we've always done. I'm going to be sharing the link with us. I'm also going to be sharing the query that we use in the class in the email. So yes, an email from Knowledge and Skill Forum. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Do you have any question? If we don't, before we call it a day.
No question. There's no better way to say
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Thank
It's
you very
very,
much.
very insightful.
So
Thank
if
you.
you have question, if you're on the WhatsApp group, you can always drop our question there also. Someone will attend to it. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Let's have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good evening. Bye.
All right. Thank you.